The Heart of Darkness, one of the best books ever, included on lists of scholars and critics, and adapted, looked at in so many ways. There's the famous Apocalypse Now, and I've been reading through material which gets into the making of the apocalypse, which is a rendition of The Heart of Darkness, Conrad, and it's The Sympathizer, for instance, an awarded and acclaimed book, which seems to suggest that Apocalypse Now was an exercise in segregation. It wasn't fair. I don't know. This adaptation I've listened to earlier is for BBC Radio, in fact, Radio 4, if I'm not mistaken. And it's about behind the project is a film that was never made, and it's an idea of Orson Welles. So, in fact, what we have now is an adaptation by the great author of Citizen Kane, which some say is the best film ever. And it's the same, basically the same story with we know, with this message of adventure, of going into the wild, in this case in the heart of Africa, but it's also a heart of darkness. I was thinking that this applies to me somehow, well, to anyone really, but I have here the heart of darkness, not just because I have these boys from the jungle behind. Well, they're not from the jungle; they were born in human environment, but I'm just saying. But there's a fence, and here there's a gated community with upper middle class in this land, in this country. Uh, I guess we would be middle class elsewhere. And outside the fence, if I don't know if the details on the video show, but there's barbed wire. Alas, it's the same issue I've read in the Tortilla Curtain, a wonderful book, and elsewhere, that gated communities are not good. They just separate the better off from the poorer folk, and it's not social integration. It's in fact segregation and all that. But here, the point is that you are in the heart of darkness outside. I mean, people have some of the habits of the darkness in Conrad, in the magical, mystical masterpiece, because they have as many children as possible. I mean, in one abode, one place there, which is primitive. It has no indoor plumbing. They have an outhouse they use for they just pee against the wall on the other side. Alhamdulillah. And so there are, I don't know, 20 people on 20 square meters of space. And the mocho, I don't know, I hear the children, more infants crying, and there's, when one is drunk, there's wild, there's curses, and there's what happens in the jungle of Africa happens there. I'm not criticizing here, I'm just giving the alternative facts. Alternative facts is for it's the new thing from the White House and the post-truth era. Um, so I'm not judging. In fact, I know the reasons, and they're to be sympathized with, and I don't have pity. We gave them some toys, they just threw them back. What they didn't like, the others can they get. And other things they wanted, they took. I mean, we gave them. The barbed wire is not mine, it's this community here, but it's on account that indeed from the heart of darkness, people came in here and broke in a number of houses, and in some a few times. There were, I don't know, 10, 20 burglaries, so they found a way to stop that. Apart from this being a guarded, more or less, area. So we have courts at the center of the story in the heart of darkness, even in this vision of Orson Wells, and he's out there in the jungle as a symbol of both adventurous spirit, grit, resilience, courage, bravery, human power, human curiosity, and much more, so many more positive traits. But he's also the representative of, in the real life, in the real world, it was Leopold going into the Congo and killing people for ivory. And so this is a tale indeed of savagery, of cannibalism, of fights and infights, of civilization against barbarity, but civilization, as it used to call itself, in many ways comes across as more barbaric than the natives, the savages, that they so much despised but killed for ivory.